clock is slow. I don't feel dirty. Class dismissed. Ooh, yeah. I got it bad, got it bad. I'm my teacher.
All right, how's everyone doing? This is Andy Copper. This is the first episode of Periodically Funny. I'm sitting here with my roommate, friend, and just a gorgeous man, Mr. Damon Crutcher.
Heterosexual life partner.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't really know yet what the podcast is going to be about, but as of right now, it's hopefully going to be a comedy podcast and just fun conversation. So, the episode we're going to listen to is actually with Steve Simeone, and I was kind of upset that you didn't get to be there for the podcast, because, like, it was a great night. So we saw Steve in Arizona live on Friday, and for anyone who listened to Steve's podcast, I'm the Andy he was talking about, and Damon is my buddy that actually... He said owns a shooting range, but he actually owns a shooting...
a training company.
Yeah. But he got to shoot with Van Halen. He got to hook him up. So
that was kind of cool, man. They say shoot with Van Halen. So my training company and my day job, or my slave job as I call it, are two separate things. I work at a shooting gallery, basically an indoor shooting range out here in Arizona. There's only like 7, so pick one. I'm not going to mention them. Because I don't know how they'd feel about it. But basically, I'm the main RO there, so range safety officer or range officer there. And Van Halen came through, and I mean, it was the entire crew. You know what I mean? My dad ran security for him back in the day,
nice.
so it was super awesome. Like you know, I was hearing my dad used to have a vest before he started putting all like the military stuff on when I joined and all that. And he had a Van Halen patch on, and I was like, dude, what's that? And he's like, oh, I used to run security for him, blah, blah, blah. So it was awesome, like I told him about it. He's like, I'm there. Yeah, let's fucking do it. I'm like, look, dude, it's a closed event. Like, calm down. But it was cool, man. They were all like really, really chill. They were shooting guns. There was a guy there who was like their liaison or whatever, who was like showing them around, and he had all the guns. So like, basically they needed our space. They didn't need us, but I was there because like, the whole liability and all that crap. But it was cool, man. I was just kind of sitting back, I was quiet. I wasn't starstruck, just the way you should be, they're just people, but like super fucking awesome people. So like I was sitting there and I was on the range, and then like they were doing the sim, and I was just like, you know what, fucking, I'm just going to pop out. And I ended up sitting down and talking with... Wolfgang, yeah.
He told me Wolfgang and his girl.
Yeah, and we were kind of just sitting there, just like shooting the crap. I wasn't really, asking him too much or prying or whatever. And then we started talking about, where the world is and like the problem of like, drugs and drug legalization, what that would do. And anyways, it was a high-minded conversation with a famous dude, and it was just so chill, and like it brought his persona
down to like reality.
It was so cool.
So actually Steve did ask me though, like where he kind of stood in politics. Where does Wolfgang, like, for anyone who doesn't know, and like maybe you don't know as much, but Steve is like the hugest Van Halen fan like ever. So He actually missed the show at the Hollywood Bowl or wherever it was in LA to come out here and do the shows that he did out here.
Oh,
and I tried to get him to come out early because Van Halen was going to actually be here Monday, and he was coming in Wednesday. And I was like, dude, just come in and stay on my couch. We'll just put a big event together and just like all go to Van Halen together. For sure. Shit. But yeah, he couldn't make it work.
So we started talking about, just the problems mainly. The problems with, the incarceration of too many Americans for non non-violent crimes and
drug charges, stupid
drug
shit
charges.
like that.
Yeah, just our incarceration rate in general.
Yeah.
And it was just highlighting all the issues and how we both recognize it as a problem. And I started talking about drug legalization. And the funny part was I mentioned Amsterdam and Copenhagen. I was like, if you look at like Amsterdam and Copenhagen, I made a point, and then him and his wife or his girl or whatever it was just like chuckling, and I was like, what? And he goes, I'm from Amsterdam, and she goes, I'm from Copenhagen. And I was like, oh, okay, so
And you don't really know much history about Van Halen.
No, I don't.
Like, do you listen? I'm sure you've heard.
I've heard their songs, and here's the thing: like with music, I know songs, but I don't know artists, and like,
yeah, I mean, especially older stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I know popular songs, and that's pretty much it.
Like I was in choir, so I just sing all the time. I mean, if you watch, some of the other stuff that's going to be coming out, like I'm always singing. I'm always like for a very brief time in the military, my name was Jukebox.
Nice.
Because I used to just always sing a bunch of different random stuff.
Yeah.
Anywhere from like Sam Cooke to like The Used and all this other stuff. I just don't. I can probably sing 20 of their songs, maybe, but I don't know each one of them as Van Halen.
Right,
you know what I mean?
for sure.
So it's cool. I mean, like, but anyway, the coolest part was that no matter where we stood, and this is kind of a testament to high level individuals, right? So people who recognize, what the world's really about and what discourse is about.
Right.
They all really had that kind of mind of discourse. I could have said anything and it would have been analyzed from an empirical standpoint versus, people who are just like want to talk, they don't need to, and neither did I at that point.
Yeah.
But, like no one needed their voice to be heard. And, it was a conversation versus two people talking.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
It was cool, man. I had fun.
Dude, and that's such a cool thing, like, to be able to run into, I mean, because again, they are just people, but they've had like crazy experiences and stuff, and you've gotten a chance to do that a lot over there, haven't you?
Yeah. I've met a bunch of cool people, man. A lot of them are going to be in the shooting world. A lot of people are going to know who those guys are, but I mean, I've had an opportunity to talk to people who I looked up to, as a competitive shooter, and whether that's at a competition on the range and they're like, hey man, why don't you try this? Or like, stuff like that to, just talking to Van Halen or, talking to whoever comes through. And
Right.
it's just chill. I got a chance to work with, G.W. Ayers, which he's a guy who works, for Grego's Precision. Which is
Grego's Precision?
It's a company that does like custom work for like ARs and, they got a lot of cool products.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I worked with him on Red Bloods, which is a graphic novel, and
Oh, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So what is that? Because
so
the Instagram picture and all this, dude.
Yeah.
Like, if any ladies are listening to this and you want to see how sexy this guy actually is, like, this is the picture to go and find.
Yeah, I got my beard in full effect and my mohawk and all that. So basically, there's a guy named Jason from Straight 8 Photography. He came up with an idea to do a graphic novel of guns, and from the gun world perspective, I mean, he's been featured on Guns Inc. magazine, just like any of the who's who. He's been there and photographed the stuff for him. Like Magpul uses him, and he just decided one day to kind of make a graphic novel about the commies invading and America rah rah rah. So people might be like, oh, it's propaganda. No, it's not a real story. Obviously, it's just
it's
just
just fun.
like what is it? Red Dawn. It's kind of like that in a sense, but like it's really cool. Anyways, so they have like Zoltan, another guy I met and shot with and had another great conversation with from
Five Finger
Death Punch. That guy was so cool. I was on his Insta, shooting with him.
Nice.
Well, great guy. But he's in it as like an anti-hero, if you will. He's not a villain, but he's not a villain. He kind of plays both sides. He's a cool. If you like graphic novels and you like guns, you check it out. It was kind of cool. But I got to be a part of that. It was a small part. I was a villain who kidnapped the main lady of the first 2 episodes.
Oh, nice.
It was cool. I ended up shooting G-Dub in the chest, and what I didn't know is he had a bulletproof vest on, so he broke my neck when I was calling my bosses. So that was like my claim to fame as GW. Broke my neck.
That's freaking awesome. So let's, dude, that's so sick. Is there a website for that, or is it just on the Instagram?
It's red-bloods.com.
Okay.
And it's dedicated solely to the first 2 episodes. I think they're filming the 3rd right now.
Oh, so it was an actual film? It wasn't a...
Not filming by doing the... graphic novel basically it's like a comic book, but with real pictures.
Okay.
So,
nice.
Yeah, so that's what a graphic novel is.
So, but does it get printed out into?
Yeah.
It's gonna be turned into a book essentially that people can buy.
Yeah, it looks like a comic book, but
Right.
any comic book nerd like myself was back in the day, if you call a graphic novel a comic book, they'll eviscerate you and be like, and start yelling.
Well, like Sin City by Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Those are graphic novels, but those aren't real pictures.
Oh, okay.
Those are actually. I mean, they're essentially comic drawn books as well.
I think his was...
But they're longer. They're more...
Right.
They're more like novels, essentially.
Yeah, so if you take any pictures and put them in, you can't call it a comic book anymore.
Okay.
It has to be...
Has to be... And there's probably other classifications.
I'm sure. And this is a limited scope, but I know I called it a comic book once, and my buddy yelled at me.
Lost his mind.
Yeah, and I could just see like a dude I served with. His name's Garrett Wilkerson. Shout out Wilk. He has like the Green Lantern tattoo and like the whole thing. And I know if I would have said that in front of him, he would have just eviscerated me. So. But yeah, it was cool, man. Like, I've done a lot of cool stuff in the past 2 years that I never thought I would be able to do.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the thing, man. That's what life's about. It's just kind of meeting people like Steve.
Yeah,
which
was a blast.
Oh my God! I mean, just that type of stuff that like I would have never thought I would have been a part of. And when you're in the military, you don't do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? You're kind of stuck in your limited worldview. And it was just, oh man, it's been super cool, man.
Yeah, for real. And I mean, like, that's kind of the big thing too, is like, just for me, it's like, especially like I've been working such crap jobs for like my whole life. Like I've always just hated work, and now I clean pools now, and it's like the most relaxing thing in the world because I just listen to podcasts all day and just by myself basically. But I try to expand like my personal time to just going out and doing things that are interesting and fun and like stuff that I love, like going to comedy shows or, even like these conversations with you and stuff, like just trying to have fun and enjoy life rather than just focusing on all the garbage.
Right, and that's kind of like what life's about, man. You only get one spin on the rock,
right?
You gotta
make the best of it.
Yeah, you gotta figure out something to do.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Fill it with good people, and those who don't add to your life, just remove them.
Right.
And that was and so to kind of speak to people who are, and I hate saying famous, but people who are well recognized in any community, whether that be comedy, whether that be if it's bridge, there's going to be the Steve Simeone of bridging, you know what I mean, or whatever they call it, you know what I mean. There's going to be those guys, that like have you heard of Rick Johnson? Oh my God, you haven't heard of Rick Johnson?
Dude, he's only like the best at bridging ever.
Those guys are just like, once you meet them and like once you have that mindset of just like everyone's human and everyone's this, and it's just cool to meet those people, and you can kind of get over the starstruck aspect of it.
You can get over that, and you can actually even make them more comfortable around and actually have a better chance of getting to have a conversation with that person, because they like somebody who isn't all crazy and like
isn't a groupie.
Oh my God, you're this person, blah blah blah. Like, no, just talk to them about like something else, and even act like you don't know who they are, and you're just trying to start a conversation.
Well, I think that's one of the things when I think Robin Williams talked about that a little bit. When you get so recognized that you're almost like a figure versus a person, that it just becomes crazy, man. Like, you can't have a normal conversation. You're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and it's just like, cool. Like, I just kind of want to have that human connection, that human experience, and then once you're removed from that, it just becomes lonely. You know what I mean?
Well, it was like something. There was like a video that Paul Walker they'd put together for Paul Walker, and when he was saying when a fan would come up and actually say, "Hey, Brian," his character in Fast and the Furious, he knew it was going to be a cool person that he could actually just have a conversation with about cars and stuff like that. That wasn't just all crazy about like the fame thing and stuff. Like they were just legitimately fans of cars, and he's like, dude, we're going to have a great conversation right now.
Right.
Like, this is going to be a fucking blast.
And that's crazy, man. Like, hey, they know you as a character.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for you, like, obviously your name's not Andy
Copper.
Andy Copper, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I'm sure that's like a thing. Like, if someone came up, like, what's up, Copper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe there's a linear connection there.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Right.
But Steve, man, he was.
So how was Friday night? Because like, okay, so here's the problem. Like, I was looking forward to this night for like a long time.
Yeah. So I think it was like a month before Steve came into town. You were like, hey, bro, hey, there's a guy coming into town. His name's Steve. He's the shit. Bro, you need a comedy show. You need to come. And I was like, cool, man. Like, because you had just moved in, you know.
It's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, man. Like, I love comedy. Absolutely. You know, it's like, you know, I listen to comedy when I drive.
Right.
Just because I'm happier and I'm looking for, you know, some joy in my life. No, but, you know, you were talking him up and you were doing all this. You're like, you should come out, blah, blah, blah. And, like, honestly, here's the thing. Like, I really thought about not showing up that night.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I know.
But I was like, fuck it, I'll go. I'll have some fun, you know. And like my plan, the one thing that was just like, you know, I really just don't want to leave my truck down there because I was planning on getting housed. Like I even told you. I was like,
you did.
Yeah, I was like, look, man, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna get drunk as fuck, and then we're gonna figure out how to get my vehicle in the morning. And you're like, fuck yeah, come on, man, I'd love to see it. You were worried about me hitting on your sisters.
Sister,
yeah, which was a thing. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. So I show up and you're already drunk.
Oh man,
already drunk, and then like I show up, I'm like, hey, can I get a Blue Moon? He's like, yeah, another one. And I'm like, all right, cool, solid, you know. So
I was supposed to be the DD essentially for the night because I, you know, should have stayed sober anyways to enjoy the night better.
It didn't quite turn out the way we had planned, right? So a plan of action is a list of things that doesn't happen. But I ended up having like 6 beers, and I was like, fuck, he's housed.
I had like 10 doubles.
Yeah.
Essentially like 20 drinks.
Well, the fucked up part is like your mom was like, which one of you is taking him home? And like your other buddy was like looking around, just like, I don't know. It's definitely not me. And I was just, it was that moment I was like, fuck, I got to take this guy home. You know, I mean, we live together.
We live together, so it would have been the smart or nice thing to do too.
Right. But I mean, I was already 6 deep, so like I was like, all right, cool. You know, like I started chugging water, doing the thing. But then we ended up sitting outside talking to Steve, and I hate not knowing what this guy's name is.
The other comic?
Yeah, the self-deprecating guy.
It was Joel Knight.
Joel Knight.
Uh-huh.
Me, you, Joel Knight, your entire family, and your one buddy.
Johnny.
And
Preston.
Preston, is that the guy who was on the podcast?
No, Preston was my other friend that was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Johnny and Preston were both there, and then the other guy that was on the podcast is Ryan Whittier, I believe.
Okay. So we were all sitting outside, and it went from, you know, just kind of like,
how's it going?
Yeah, like a casual conversation of like, hey, we're all outside now, to probably some of the most fun, just comedic. Like, we were all out there knowing we wanted to have a good time, and just no one was like trying to steal the stage, no one was doing whatever, but everyone was just having a great time telling stories that made everyone else laugh, you know? So you have Steve, which that man is just hilarious. No matter what, even his laugh is funny, you know what I mean?
It's so
like,
good.
It's just like his laugh infects you and like makes you want to laugh too, you know what I mean? And he's just
a genuinely nice guy. And was just so excited about hanging out and like being just around like family and friends. And even though they weren't his family and like friends, eventually they just kind of like.
It was like a poster, you know, like or like, you know, like a cartoon or whatever your nostalgia is, you know, like going back, and that's half
cartoons, Chinese food, all that stuff, which essentially is what he.
It's half of what his comedy is going back to his childhood. He's like a kid, you know what I mean, and not in a bad way of like, oh, he's a fucking child, whatever, but like in innocence, in the purity, in the happiness. You know what I
It reminds you
mean?
of the fun that you had as a kid, the
Yeah.
joys that you had as a kid, like the little things.
Like
And
when
that's
you
why-
didn't have an Xbox or
Right.
an Atari
when
for
you actually
us,
went
you know?
outside and played and
Yeah.
shit, like
You're like, the floor is lava, which is one of his jokes. Yeah,
dude, the
yeah.
floor is lava is one of my favorite. You know what I heard?
I haven't even heard it, but we referenced it.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
The other one, the TV is, or he just talked about TV tag. It's like freeze tag, but when you
Yeah.
get tagged, you have to like say a TV show or some shit.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He just said that on the podcast today. I was like, dude, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like I used to play that as a fucking
Yeah.
kid. Like,
It's so cool to see someone who probably has gone through a lot of hardships.
Yeah.
just still be that innocent and that pure.
Right.
You know what I mean? It makes you just happy inside just to watch him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's not just his jokes, but the aura around him that makes him such a great, or rather connects him to his audience.
Right.
And that's something that I don't know that anyone else could do. I haven't
'cause,
seen it.
Like everyone really feels like they're his friend by the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it sounds stupid, it sounds like whatever, but really, if you haven't seen his comedy, go and watch his comedy, and you like by the end of the night, he will just leave you in the best mood
Absolutely.
possible.
And that's the crazy thing, like how long have we known each other? Like,
It's been like over a year, but like really known each other has only been since I moved in.
how many times have you heard me tell a story about overseas?
Maybe once or two. Well, no, like recently it's been a little more.
Well, like an actual story, not just like talking about my experience, but like an actual story. All right, so Jim, whatever. So if you don't remember, I told 2 or 3 stories
That night?
that night
Oh, I don't remember.
about me being.
That's part of the reason why you're on here is because I don't remember Friday
Oh,
night
okay,
at all.
good. So I told 2 or 3 stories about me being overseas, and they were funny stories. It was kind of like the funny in a bad situation. And if you've ever been in, you know what I'm talking about. Like those comedic reliefs in the times of oh shit. You know
Oh,
what
yeah,
I mean? And I didn't know the guy. I knew you. I barely knew your family. I didn't know anyone else. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it was just. He made me just so comfortable, it was so fluid or so natural just to talk
Just
to him.
relax. You felt like you knew
Yeah.
him for a long time. That you could
Oh.
just.
And it was great that he was eating it up. He loved it. You talked about his USO tours. You talked
Yeah, he
about
used
everything.
to do comedy trips for the USO, which I think he's trying to get back into.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which is actually something that I'm hoping I'll eventually be able to do also. If I ever like get my ass on stage, like I would love to go and do some USO stuff.
Which, by the way, we have to go do that this week.
We should actually like this week or
I'm down.
next
I don't care.
week. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, so I told a story to him, and he was. He made me feel like I was a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, that was so unique. Like, everyone I've met, it's always been, because I'm not really starstruck by many people.
Right.
They've always made me feel like, hey, we're just having a conversation. We're 2 dudes, whatever.
Yeah.
But he made me feel like I was the
Most
celebrity.
important person
Yeah.
there or whatever. Like
Even-
in that conversation.
When I was telling the stories, everything, man. Just
Yeah.
like, of being like, almost shitting my pants, going up a ladder or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And oh, man, the dude, I don't know. Like, I like... That guy's just awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's something
we've really
about him.
like sucked his dick a lot in
Yeah,
this.
I mean, I'd suck
intro.
his dick right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like honestly, if you got to spend an evening with him, even just watching his comedy, if you don't get a chance to like, he stands out and talks after, but like, dude, just go check him out and enjoy like the show, because it will, and that's part of the reason why I was pushing to get so many people to go to the show. I mean, I was posting shit on Facebook, on Twitter, just constantly, just saying, "Hey, he's."
I thought you were getting a
like,
percentage, man.
no,
I thought,
it was
I thought
all
you were
just no. I mean, just all fan stuff. Like, I mean, and I don't even want to say fan. Like, so the reason, like, where I met Steve, like, I listened to him. I got introduced to him through Ari Shafir's podcast. Who I don't know if you know.
I know who that is.
You do. You listen to Joe Rogan. So that's where I got introduced to him, and then like I heard he had his own podcast, so I started like listening to him. It was awesome. And then I went to LA with my mom, and I forgot to get tickets. One of the main things we were doing is for me to go out there and check out if I was going to move out there and start doing comedy clubs, and I was going to see where I was going to move and stuff. And I forgot to buy tickets, and it was a Saturday night for the Comedy Store. And I just hit him up on Twitter. I'm like, dude, like, is there any way? Because I saw he was performing that night. I was like, I'm one of your buddies from Arizona. Like, I forgot to buy tickets. Is there any way you can get me into the Comedy Store tonight? And he's like, it's going to be hard, but I'll see what I can do. And he did. He, like, got me
That's
tickets.
so fucking cool. He didn't even know you.
Didn't even know me. We had just messaged a couple times on Twitter, nothing crazy. And then, like, I get there, and he's, like, super, like, he's standing out in the lobby, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, I'm super happy you're here. And
So
like, I
cool.
left my mom to park the car because she wouldn't park because she's like, just in case he doesn't get his tickets. I'm like, dude, he got his tickets. Like, come on. So then he's
That's
like,
so
where's
cool.
your mom at? And I'm like, and now I feel like a liar because I told him I came with my mom. But like, it was cool. I mean, it really was good. And like, everyone was talking about it after. Like, my family's favorite part was after the show, just getting to hang out and stuff, and actually getting to, just hang out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
For the level in which he is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, he could have that's a weird way to say it, but he could have a level of arrogance about him. He could have that, like, I'm a whatever, and
I'm
have
better
like
than these guys, blah, blah,
bullshit.
blah.
But
Yeah.
like, that's not even a thought in his mind.
No.
Man. That's just that, and that's so cool, man. Like, I hope if I ever reach that level with shooting or anything else that I'm
Yeah.
a part of, that
You keep
that I can live up to his standard.
Right.
And that's honestly my goal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's an awesome thing. So, that being said, the tone of, I haven't listened to it since I recorded it because I went up there on Sunday, and that's why you weren't there. Because I think you were just on your way home from work by the time I got there. But I think the tone of this podcast is actually a little more serious.
Right.
Than like happy go lucky and funny. But
What do you mean serious?
We got into it, just it was more of like a real conversation, like as far as like talking about like women and talking about just the way people are nowadays, like
Women.
freaking women. Hey, Monica.
Shout out to Rebecca.
What up, girl?
Oh, dang.
Aren't you so fine?
See you on Friday.
But no, I mean, so it was just more of like talking about like how people are now and how they focus more on negative things and how they're so quick to be hateful and judge right away on like
absolutely.
social media and stuff. So the conversation I thought was going to be a little more lighthearted, but actually was more of a serious conversation, which, I mean, that's the way I remember it. I was sober for it.
Once.
For once, right? It could have been a little light. It could be more lighthearted than I remember, but I just remember after it was done thinking like, oh, that was just a little more serious. It's still good, but it was just, I mean, the conversation was good, but it was just a little.
Well, I think that's kind of the thing. When serious issues arise, you can't necessarily meet that with jovial conversation. So like when those types of conversations present themselves, you just can't dismiss it with certain things. I mean, you very well can, and it's the job of the comedian to make light of situations.
Yeah, when you're on stage, but I think for a podcast is more of like a real conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
Oh no, that was basically it, man. I mean, everyone's human, and like when even those who tend to what's that thing about the clown? How he is the loneliest of the bunch. You know what I mean? It's kind of a sense to that. Like those even the people who you think are the strongest tend to have weak thoughts and tend to have certain things like that. And I'm not calling seriousness weak, but Steve as a person is quite jovial, and he's trying to bring laughter into the world, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have those intellectual thoughts of, hey, this is an issue and how can we solve it?
Well, and that's one of the things that he actually points out about his comedy is that it's a choice.
Right.
He's made a choice to be positive. He's made a choice to think this way because he just got so tired of thinking the other way. And he's like, there's got to be something better. And so he just made the choice for himself.
And that's such a brand.
It really is, because there's not a lot of comics that do that. And I don't think there's any comics that really do what he does.
In the way he does it, at
like
least.
Clean comedy and stuff like that, it's still not sending like that positive, just good message that I think he sends.
Yeah, the positivity, I'll say that no one touches him.
Yeah.
In the sense of just how I mean, you believe it. You know what I mean? It's
It's
even
genuine.
if it is a character, which I don't think it is, because I saw him after the show.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
absolutely not. But even
Yeah.
if it was, like, no one could ever. It's like the Heath Ledger aspect. You know what I
Right.
mean? As soon as you play the Joker, no one can play it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As soon as Steve plays the happy guy, no one can play it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As
For
soon as he
real.
brings that in, it's over. Like you're not gonna out happy Steve. You know what I mean? Like he just cornered the market. You know.
It's good too. I mean, like his shows are awesome. So that's
Steve-
one thing.
Sorry, Steve, the Coke brand of happiness. Fuck that Pepsi shit.
Well, and that's one of his things is he just tries to remind you of, like the good times and just all that crap, and it's awesome.
And I
So,
think if more people did that, you know, they'd be happier in life. You know, it goes to you know, people's mental fortitude, people being able to overcome adversity.
Yeah.
Isn't the fact that they don't recognize it, it's the fact that they recognize the good in the bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of military dudes have that. And you know, you'll see X amount, no matter what the situation, 3 people will go through a situation and one of them will come out better than the other 2 because they recognize the good in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think Steve just took that to the next level in the sense of being able to always find the good or the happy in life, even if, you know, you're dirt poor and you got lava on the floor and, you know, whatever else. You don't have good toys. You don't have an Atari or an Xbox 360 or whatever it is. It doesn't mean that, you know, your happiness is any less than the guy who's doing that type of stuff. He's an awesome dude, man. I think we talked. Here's the cool part. We talked for 2.5, maybe 3 hours. Enough time for me to be sober to drive home after 6 beers of the
Yeah.
show. We talked, and like seriously, I think I got done at 10:30, and I think 12:45 and 1 o'clock came along, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, they were like, "Is the pizza place still open?"
Yeah, I was
'Cause
like,
they were like dying to eat, and we just kept holding them up. I
yeah,
think.
oh, yeah, no shit. I was like, fuck, dude, I gotta work in like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Fuck, you know, I gotta get on.
No, it was awesome. It was a good night, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on here is because I do remember like bits and pieces of it, and I got some pictures to remind me of like other things that happened.
Did you get the dick pics I sent?
I didn't get any
No.
dick pics.
Oh,
I think.
wow, you were really drunk.
Yeah.
Scroll up.
Scroll up. They're there. So, but no, I mean, it was fun, and I know it was your first experience getting to see like Steve's comedy and like
Yeah.
So it was cool.
And it was cool to see the local comics too.
The local guys were good. So there was Tim. Let me get his name.
Was that the guy who I laughed at so fucking hard?
No, and we'll get to Jonathan, but Tim Sauer, I believe it is. He was the host,
Okay.
the main guy. So
He was kind of cool.
yeah, so Tim Sauer, he's an awesome comic, local guy. And then Joel Knight, who is like the assistant manager of that club and a local comic, he was up that night. And then
Was that the
Jonathan Gregory was
so Jonathan Gregory was a crazy
Jonathan
one.
Gregory is the creepy
Angry,
comedy. Yeah.
That was fucking hilarious.
It was so good. And he's actually on the podcast. He comes in.
is?
Yeah, he comes in.
I wish I
like,
would have fucking been there.
I want to say he comes in like 20 minutes into the podcast.
Okay, so can I say one of his jokes? My favorite joke. Is that okay? I don't know if that's. There
Is it giving away a whole bit, or is it?
It was one of the. It was the one that he responded me to laughing because I said that was the greatest fucking thing I've ever heard, and he's like, "We should bring you to every show." Like he pointed at me, you know what I mean? Anyways, there was a joke. I won't ruin it because I don't know the etiquette on that, but it was absolutely just. I have a very dark sense of humor. And it was just the most perfect representation of dark sense of humor that I could have. I could have never conceived that joke, but once I heard it, I knew it was of my kind. You know what I mean? I started rolling, and it was to the point where like he had to say something because I was laughing too hard, and maybe I had a little bit too much to drink. But that thing,
Dude, that guy was so good, and he's actually one of the comics that Steve was talking about on his podcast this week because he was just like, dude, this guy like was making me crack up, like the kind of humor that he has. He's like legitimately top 2 Arizona comic,
and and the crazy part is that's a character, right? And it obviously has to be because
he's
so
got
angry.
videos. He does other characters. Like one of his influences is Andy Kaufman, so he's all about like different characters and stuff like that.
Andy Kaufman. What do I know?
Andy
that name?
Kaufman. Did you see Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey?
Yeah,
that's Andy Kaufman.
Okay.
That's the
Okay,
story.
yeah.
So, anyways, let's just go ahead and get into the podcast.
Yeah, beautiful.
Into that podcast anyways, the interview with Steve.
Yep.
So with that, it's Steve Simeone, Ryan Witting, and myself, and then at about 20 minutes in, I believe Jonathan Gregory joins us. So enjoy.
So by the way, shout out to Steve. If you hear this, you're a beautiful man. Can't wait for you to come back to AZ. We need to actually drink together.
I told him we're going shooting.
Oh God,
Yeah,
bring
I told
him
him
shooting.
we're taking him out shooting to
Absolutely.
your place.
It'd be a blast.
We'll go get some like cheesesteaks or some barbecue or more pizza. Oh, that
Beers.
was the other thing, dude. So Sunday night after the show, I got to go. All the comics and us went out and got pizza.
So cool.
So we got to sit for like 2 hours just around a table and just talking
yeah.
and stuff and eating pizza and like that is like the best.
You're talking about when you were in
Sunday after
LA.
the podcast.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
so this past
cool.
Sunday, that's why I wish you were there, because dude, it was
man.
like so much fun, because it was me and the other comics,
Right.
and then Steve was there, and then Ryan was there, and a couple of Ryan's friends.
Well, you guys are going to enjoy this podcast. This is a great time. Seriously. You guys are really going to enjoy this podcast. It's great.
All right, thanks guys, enjoy.
The business, Pauly Shore, Ari, whatever you want to get into.
Yeah, she did, because I got wasted here at your show,
It was so fun.
and yeah, the show was great.
Your family and friends are awesome, by the way.
Awesome, I'm glad.
You didn't get
cool.
wasted. You got white girl wasted. It's a different category of wasted, and you were white girl wasted, just so you know.
Well, you were having fun.
I was.
That's what happens sometimes. Like, you don't plan on getting drunk, and you're just having fun, and it's like a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, man, I'm going to need a ride home.
We were
Yeah,
talking
totally.
earlier, and I told him, you find out what people are really like when they're drinking. So you find out if somebody's an asshole, if somebody's a jerk, if somebody is funny. You see what they're really like when they're drinking. So we found
Or-
that this guy is really funny.
Yeah, that's
And he's really
true.
friendly, too. So you get to see
Yeah.
what people are really like.
I don't know. I think sometimes people can get so drunk, though, they're not even themselves. I've seen that happen,
Yeah,
too.
they do.
It's a different level beyond white girl wasted.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they do. But like after the show, like the next day, my mom called me and was freaking out. Like, you need to call Steve and apologize. Like,
Dude, you were awesome.
I'm glad, because they're like, because she looked at my other buddy and was like, "Have you ever seen him like this? Like,
And
I've
he's
never
like,
seen him."
all the time?
Yeah. Well, he's like, no. He's like, I've never seen him this drunk before.
That's
like,
what everyone
how drunk
said.
you got?
Dude, I was drinking doubles the whole night and I forgot. And they brought me like 8 or 9, and I haven't been drinking. Plus, I had like 2 out here. I haven't been drinking in like the past 3 months.
He only says 8 or 9. He's got 10 fingers. If it was more than that, he wouldn't know. There was only 10 fingers to count on. So
At that point, I wouldn't.
So
have
how
known.
many, like, how many, that's like, if 8 or 9 doubles?
I was drunk the next day. When I like at like 11 or 12.
the whole next day.
The whole next day.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't knock on wood. Like, I know it's going to happen again, and it'll probably be not planned.
Right.
It'll just happen. But I do not miss being drunk. Like, I finally learned how to drink like an adult
Yeah.
somewhere along the line where
Yeah.
I'm able to have, like, last night, Jonathan and I went to Mellow Mushroom. Nobody was hanging out.
Oh,
and
nice.
They had, like, late night happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I get a Diet Coke with my pizza, I'm going to be up even later. So I had 1 beer.
Nice.
1, like a grown-up.
Yeah. That's what I do nowadays. Typically, is like I'll go and I'll have like 1 or 2 at dinner, and then I'm good. Like I don't need any more.
Do
than
you
that.
even drink?
I used to. I haven't in quite a while, just for my diet is so strict.
Yeah.
I was a whiskey sour guy for years. Ever have that? It's
Maybe
just
a long time ago.
any whiskey, and you can do it. Lime juice, lemon juice. You can squirt Sprite. It's dangerous. It's real good. It's so
Yeah.
good. It's dangerous.
It's
Oh,
like
no.
candy.
Yeah, it's good, but not anymore,
Bad
man.
news.
Yeah.
Not
I do
anymore.
whiskey and Coke. I don't like.
What's your drink of choice, Awesome Steve?
I usually sip on bourbon
Okay.
if I'm gonna, like, because I figured that way I can sort of judge it better.
Yeah.
But I used to try to impress people. Like, I used to pound beers, do shots of whiskey, and then I would drink. This is really embarrassing and sad. It's very sad. Like, I think that's the weird thing about life. Whenever I thought I was being really cool, has always been a cry for help. You know what I mean? Like, the cooler I thought I was in the moment, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that was really God, how come nobody just hugged me and told me they liked me? Because I used to drink whiskey in pint glasses.
Oh boy.
Jesus. Well, you
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
that line too. I'm not lying to make friends here, and you see,
Yeah.
which I think is hilarious.
Because I used to drink and lie to just make friends. Like I'd get drunk and I'd be like, why does anybody want to hang out with me?
Oof.
I better give them reasons.
Yeah.
And then I would just invent them.
Does your counselor know about this?
You know what? That's the greatest thing about comedy. It makes
This
makes
is your
everything
this is
better.
your therapy.
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah, really, it's true. My acts evolved as I've evolved. It's the coolest thing.
Let me just tell your listeners, I'm sorry to cut you out. Let me just tell your listeners, those of your listeners that haven't seen Steve's live show, do yourself a favor, get to Steve's live show, because let me tell you, Awesome Steve kicks ass whether he is or is not all out of bubblegum. He brings that he brings that A game no matter where he
Cut
goes.
wrestling promos over here.
I cut wrestling promos for you everywhere I go. So I
That's
had to plug
awesome.
that.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, no, he's like one of the best I've seen on stage for sure. Like,
Oh, thanks,
yeah,
man.
absolutely.
And you haven't peaked yet. That's what we were talking about. You haven't peaked. You don't know how good you are, and you don't know where you're going to go yet. But you haven't peaked as good as you are.
Yeah, it's really exciting. to be
Is it
honest
kind of
with you.
scary actually to think of you're
I
not?
just want to make a living, and then
Right.
whatever happens, happens. But I'm at the point now where at least I have the confidence that I know I'm going to make a living doing something I love. And then, so the last 15 years of struggle it's going to be worth it. Because, I talk to my friends that are my age, and nobody really likes their job, man. So if I'm going to spend the next 30 years of my life doing something, I think I'm going to be okay.
They're jealous of you, aren't they? They have 3 kids. Their wife ties them down. They don't get to go out and have fun.
No, you know what? If I were to answer that
Honestly?
honestly, I'm jealous of that.
Really?
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment for me, because comedy's really not that important. What I think is important is connecting with people. Like this right now, I think is so cool.
It really is.
It's like I feel like I'm sitting down with old friends, and Andy, I don't know. I mean, we met once at the Comedy Store. We met once with Roddy Piper. What, 6 years ago?
6 years ago.
But
Yeah.
it feels like this is the best.
We've known each other in a different lifetime for sure.
Dude, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
But I do feel kind of like the fact that I'm not married with kids, I feel like I'm missing out.
You were engaged though, weren't you?
No.
Oh, you played a hoax on Facebook or something. I thought you posted you were engaged at one point.
No, we did.
Oh, I
had a
duped.
bit about that when my
Oh,
girlfriend
I got it.
convinced. I had no idea that saying that you were Facebook official was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, it's a big deal.
Because I'm a dude. I have no idea. And then we got 800 likes on that or something.
I planned my ticket to go to Los Angeles for your wedding, and I didn't care if I was on the invite list or not. Awesome Steve getting married. I'm fucking going. I don't care.
Dude.
I hope we're not PG rated, or you're gonna have to bleep.
No,
Oh, sorry, good.
Yeah. And I know there's people probably listening like, why would you ever want to get married?
Right. No,
I don't mean a stinky marrige.
someone cool.
Something, a cool chick that I could treat great and she doesn't lose respect for me. But I don't know if they make girls like that anymore.
It's hard
Not in this
because,
country.
Yeah, I've heard you guys talk. A lot of comics talk about the girls in LA and stuff.
It's everywhere,
It's
man.
everywhere. I don't think. Yeah, because
It's a very interesting distinction
Yeah.
because I just realized that all the things I used to complain about LA because it's so different from Philly, I'm like, oh.
it's all over.
My memories I'm basing Philadelphia, they're 15, 20 years old.
Right.
I haven't been in LA for 15 years now. I'm like, oh, it's not LA, it's just society.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, I was talking to my high school buddy today about this. I was like, it seems like, and this is my personal experience, and I don't want this to be the case, but I'm going to be honest. I'm always honest, man.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, maybe it's something I'm putting out there, okay? I'm taking the blame for this, but it seems to me that as soon as I'm really, really cool with the chick,
Yeah.
they sort of lose respect. They don't want it.
Dude, girls.
It's really sad. The girls that I know have loved me, it's because I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was never mean or whatever, but they can sense that subconsciously, ooh, I have to keep on winning this guy's approval. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's just not here. We should move on.
Exactly.
And then the more I would pull back, the more they would try to cling, and vice versa. The more I'm like, hey, I think this is something awesome. And they'd be like, ugh, I'm going to go with somebody that hates me.
Yeah.
They want
somebody
what they
that's a
can't
jerk.
have, and once they realize they can have you, it's like, eh.
Yeah, the joke I wrote was that relationships are video games for women.
Nice.
As soon as you say I love you, they're like, game over. I have to go buy a new one. I beat this one already.
This one's done.
Yeah, this one's done.
Exactly.
Which is sad because, like, if that's the case, and I really do hope it's just my experience, but if that's the case, like, no wonder why nobody's getting married. No wonder why all these little kids are getting raised without families.
Yeah.
And you walk down the street, and if you smile, people are angry at you. Or if you hold the door open for somebody, they look at you like you spit in their face.
Right.
It's got to change, man.
Well, and there's so many, like, asshole guys out there, too, that just being polite to a girl, they're like, oh, you trying to get in my pants or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be polite.
I'm just being nice. Like, I'm just a nice guy.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the thing. And so it's the same, though. Like, girls out here, like, I don't want to bring it up, but, like, my ex-girlfriend was, like, amazing. Like, marriage, I was going to get married. Like, super cool. Didn't get pissed if I hang out with friends. Like, just everything. But then every other girl that you meet is just dumb and doesn't have, like, morals, doesn't have anything going for them. Like, and I don't, like, I'm not talking about career or anything, but just personality.
Human, raw matter on the, like, I broke up. I tried to make it work with my ex-girlfriend again because she was a great person. I can't say that she wasn't.
Was, not is?
She is a great person.
All right. It's a distinction.
I mean, she was a great person to me.
Right.
And she is currently a great person. Because, like, I've gotten out there and you get to meet girls and you're like, oh, my God. Like,
they're horrible.
Horrible.
They really are.
Like,
and it's
addictions.
sad to say, but
they can't take anything positive in their life.
No.
It's like a Jerry Springer. Like, what used to be a talk show guest 20 years ago is almost the norm now.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
And substance abuse is running rampant, you know.
Because people are hurting. I think it's all that. I think society right now is completely fearful, and people are afraid to be vulnerable enough to be loved.
Yeah.
Because, and it took me a long time to realize that if I'm really going to love somebody, I can't protect myself and love them at the same time.
You got to just jump in and
you just got to do it, and the act of loving makes you very open for attack.
Right.
But
that's why your routine is the way it is. That's your goal behind all this. Is you're trying to change. Maybe not trying, but you are changing people's attitudes, feelings towards each other.
100%. I'm like trying to remind people that this is all gift. If we're just nicer to each other, it's going to be better for everybody.
Right.
And, like, let's enjoy it, dude. We have a choice every day to be miserable or be cool. And I just want people to be cool.
So what point did you make that choice? Because you talk about that a lot, how you used to be miserable. And then
it was gradual, but I did hit, like, you know, alcoholics talk about a rock bottom.
Yeah.
I hit a rock bottom in terms of, like, negative thinking. Part of that was binge drinking at times. I don't think I was ever physically addicted to alcohol, or I think the way I drank would have been almost insulting to say I was an alcoholic. I think that's a genetic predisposition.
Yeah, it is, but
I did drink episodically, like
well, you can have alcoholic tendencies, and you know, even without being an alcoholic, like it runs in my family.
Yeah.
And so, like, I notice it, like, I'm aware of it, so whenever I see myself getting out of control, I'll, like, step back and be like, all right, I'm not going to drink for a few months because I'm at the point where I have to drink all the time or whatever.
So you're not drinking until Christmas after your last time
That's
here,
how
right?
I was.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I was, and I would get embarrassed. And then it would lead to depression. And I think had I not addressed the issue, it could have developed into alcoholism easily.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know. My parents are cool, but I don't know what, or it's probably in the genes. I mean, if I have Irish and Italian ancestry, it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, you're there.
It's definitely in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think, so I did drink at times, and it just made things worse. So I'm not telling people what to do, but for me, I gave up drinking for years, and that allowed me to work on myself more.
Right.
And I guess the worst I ever felt was about 10 years ago. And I slowly started to crawl my way out of it. And for me, I read some books. I came back to my faith. I don't want to preach. But now every day I feel like I'm slightly better version of the person I was the day before. At least I try to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes that means just totally unplugging and being like, I need to just relax and not, like, if I can't be cool to people, I don't want to interact with them.
Right. Well, and that's kind of one of the things, because, like, the last year has been kind of, like, crazy for me, just getting my life straight and figuring out things that bothered me from when I was a kid and everything.
Yeah.
And so everything, like, every day I try to change and just try to be better. And, like, I don't every day, but, like, I definitely...
You don't change your clothes every day?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a smart ass.
But, like, I saw when Renazizi came out,
with that thing recently about
Yep.
9/11 and everything, people on Twitter were just blowing him up and just being hateful. And I'm like,
Hateful.
look, dude, that was 15 years ago. Like, who's the same as they were 15 years ago, let alone the same as they were a year ago or yesterday?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
you know, and
And then the other thing is, it's like, we've all, like, even now, I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even now, I look at stuff a day later, and I'm like, why did I say that?
Yeah, exactly.
Why did I do that? So I totally understand. And, like, the Steve I know, he's just the best person. He's like one of the absolute greatest guys I've ever met. And
Right.
I called people out. I'm like, I understand this is an extremely sensitive event, but I'm like, what did he really do? What did he get out of it?
Exactly.
It wasn't like he was raising money and telling people
Yeah.
he was a hero.
he didn't apply for benefits or anything
No.
like that. That the people
And he was
were
like, hey,
getting or-
this event changed my life. And then when I found out the real story, I was
Yeah.
like, well, that event did change your life.
Right. Yeah, it's just crazy, like the way that people get so hateful and crap, you know, and don't think about, well, how was I last year or whatever. They
I had to
they're
get
so
off
quick to
Instagram
jump.
because people spilled haterade on me on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I'm not on Steve's level of fame or anyone's.
I'm not pleased.
You will be soon, though.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, dude, you haven't
No.
peaked it. You don't even know. You're about to get on a
Whatever.
roller coaster ride.
Not that like fame is like the goal or anything like that.
definitely not.
like I want to be a comic, and I don't want to. I want to be like you. I want to just make enough
Just
money
make a
to
living,
survive.
man.
Yeah, make a living and just have fun.
Yeah, you know what would be awesome? Like, I definitely have said this before. People get involved in the business
Yeah.
because, like, I know for me, I wanted to be super famous.
Right.
I wanted to be Jim Carrey, Bill Murray, Chris Farley, comedic actor type. I wanted to write movies like Peter Farrelly. I wanted to do stand-up like Chris Rock. Like, I was like, I could do it all because I didn't feel good about myself.
Right.
And now that I feel really okay, man, like, I'm like, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think the best career would be a club comic that sells out his shows.
Yeah. For sure.
Like a club comic that you can go to every city, sell 1,000 tickets, 1,200 tickets,
Yeah.
sold. Club doesn't have to paper it. They're there specifically to see you. You'll make a great living, but fame won't be a burden.
Right. Right.
That would be awesome.
Well, and you're such a cool guy too. Like being at a level like, you know, where Joe Rogan or like Bill Burr is, to where, and maybe not. Maybe those aren't good examples, but those. to
Yeah,
me
those guys
like
are
the
monsters.
tops. Yeah. So
Yeah,
they probably
that's
have
as
trouble
big as you
walking
get as a
down the street.
stand-up.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I will say this. Just recently, in the past year, as stand-up's gotten more popular, the Comedy Store had to put a private bar at the Comedy Store for like the first time. I've been there
really?
for 15 years, but I think maybe they had one back in the 80s, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But the first time I've been there, there's like a comedian-only bar all the way in the back, because there are people now that can't
Control
relax there
themselves.
anymore
Yeah. I got
because
you.
fans keep on coming up to them.
Right. So they can't just have a good time and just chill.
No.
Like, yeah. And see, yeah,
No.
that's too much in my opinion. Like, I would never want to be that.
No,
big.
like I love Joe, and he's just always been so cool. And I remember one of his first night back at the Comedy Store, he was saying how people kept on coming up to him there, and I was like, huh. And then I saw it that night.
Yeah.
Like, and some people are aggressive, and they want something. Like, it wasn't just like, hey, man, I'm a fan, thank you. No, it was like, hey, I have an idea. I want you to bring this to your agent. And Joe's like, I don't know you, man. Like, this isn't
But
how
isn't
show
that
business
part of the
works.
price that you pay? I mean, it's like falling into the river filled with gold, and you bitch about getting wet. It's like, dude, that's what you wanted. He wanted to be famous. You wanted to have people know him. Isn't that part of the price that you pay? And I'm not trying to be devil's advocate.
No,
but
I think that's an interesting observation, but I think there's something called common courtesy.
Yeah.
right, okay.
And people have lost that. It's
not too common anymore.
No, it's not. And there's a sense of entitlement in society right now where people assume, like, I've seen it, where they're like, hey, man, you owe me. And it's like, wait a second, you can come up to me and be courteous, but don't be rude about it. There's a point where I don't care if you're famous or not. Being polite and being rude are two different things.
Right.
And I've seen people be rude to famous
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
They think it's okay.
Yeah, because they're in the public eye and they're like, well, I'm going to tell this guy what I get, you know, what I want to tell him, and who cares? He can't do anything or whatever.
Right.
it
It's
is.
just like hecklers.
Yeah.
It's like when I go out on stage, I'm exposing myself.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have the right to yell stuff out and ruin the show for everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's just, well, and anytime, you know, someone's yelling out and trying to be the center of attention or whatever,
It's the same thing.
it's, yeah.
And
it's
I have
sad.
noticed that. Like, even people that, like, go up to somebody famous and they're like, Can I get a picture? Sign this. There's levels. Hey, bro. And then they can be mean. Like, that last thing sucked. That you weren't funny tonight.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you're being rude because you're jealous and you don't feel good about
Right.
yourself. Like, the people that were hating on you on Instagram, you know it's because they were not happy with themselves. And I told this to my buddy today. It's the truth. You treat other people how you feel about yourself. Absolutely.
It's true.
And that's why people are so rude right now, because they don't really like themselves. Yeah.
Do you ever think, and I'm no pun intended, do you ever think there's a T-shirt out now, WWRD? Would you ever think, what would Roddy Piper do to some of these people that might be rude to you? Does that
Well,
ever
I
come
have
into play?
Roddy was very gracious to everybody, and he had certain guys just have a presence
Yeah.
that they can be very polite and use certain words, but the tone and their body language indicates that this is as far as it's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
cross any more lines.
like your buddy, that's the military guy.
Yeah.
There's a level where he could be like, "I think you've had enough to drink tonight,"
Oh, yeah.
and you'd be like, "Okay, I think I have. Goodbye."
He actually, I'll tell you a story. He choked a guy out last night.
I believe it.
Oh,
He was
last
at the-
night?
Oh, last night. He was at the bar with a buddy, and his buddy's got a service dog, and this chick was making fun of the service dog or whatever.
Oh, come
See,
on.
that's my point. That's my point. Like, what kind of monster would do that?
Who makes fun of a service dog for one, or someone who needs a service dog? So then he just tells him, like, look, get the hell out of here, or we're gonna have a problem. And the boyfriend steps up and gets in his face, or gets in his buddy's face who had the service dog or whatever, and they kind of
Only insecure people do that.
Exactly. So then he gets into it, like he starts hitting the guy. The girlfriend comes up and like puts her thumbs in his eyes, and then my buddy just goes around the back of the boyfriend and just throws him in a rear naked choke. And he said he was out in 3 seconds, just on the ground.
Was he actually naked?
He was. He got naked.
Wow,
That's
dude.
why it took him so long to get over there.
That's what the
so-
3 seconds.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wow, dude. That's.
So
I'm bad. Sorry.
yeah,
I'm
but I mean,
bad.
people. There's no consequences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to famous people or like Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's no consequences
Right.
to the crap that you say to somebody.
People think it's okay to be mean now
and it sucks.
because not enough people. I hate to say it, and I don't want to have this point of view, but some people, if they got like that guy that got choked out, he's probably going to think about starting a fight the next time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because had your friends been jerks, they could have really have hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. They showed restraint and everything else. And then cops showed up, and my buddies throw their hands up, and the other two got arrested.
Wow.
You know? But it's horrible the way that people act and the way the things they think they can get away with
it's
or whatever
sad.
else.
And
It's
I
just-
think that comes back to fear of love,
Yeah.
breakdown of the family unit. I think family's important. Define that any way you want. I'm not some like right wing conservative
Yeah.
nut job, but I think people need to know that they're loved unconditionally,
Right.
and that's the greatest thing about family, knowing that you're loved no matter what.
Yeah.
And we're missing that right now, and people are looking, like you said, like for false solutions for that. They're
Right.
trying to fill it with the wrong things.
Steve, when you reach Dave Chappelle level, can I be the posse that protects you? Can I be?
That would be awesome.
Can I be the big guy that's holding the 2 snarling German shepherds like they did for Dio?
Yeah, that was the greatest entrance I ever heard
Oh my
about.
gosh.
But do you know who Fraser Smith is?
I don't think so.
Fraser's like an LA comedy legend.
Okay.
And he was like one of the pioneer celebrity morning DJs.
Oh, okay.
Like even Howard Stern lists Fraser as an influence.
Nice.
And Fraser was the guy that played the first Van Halen record ever. I think he has the unique distinction, and I would have to clarify this with him, but I believe he was the first guy to play Van Halen on the radio and the first guy to play Motley Crue on the radio.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a bad.
That's pretty
That's not a
awesome.
bad.
Really cool.
that's
Fraser
resume
is
line.
the
Yeah.
coolest.
That's
and
amazing.
he does do a podcast with Joe Bartnick called Puck Off. It's a hockey podcast, so I want to promote Fraser and everything he does. So once we were just talking about celebrities or whatever, and he's the morning radio DJ in LA, and he says the coolest entrance he ever saw was Ronnie James Dio, like late 70s, early 80s. Like this probably was like the Holy Diver years of Dio when he's
Yeah.
like heavy metal icon. So it's the morning show. I guess Dio is a rock and roller. He's up all night. Everybody's excited and a little bit scared. Dio's coming.
Yeah.
And he said he's waiting for Dio, and they're looking down the hallway, and 2 of the biggest bodyguards you've ever seen are walking down the hall. There's a third bodyguard, like making a triangle in between the 2 big bodyguards, and he's walking down the hall as the point of the triangle with 2 attack snarling German shepherds. Woo, woo, woo. So 3 guys 2 German Shepherds and Dio in the middle, completely
amazing.
protected.
And you
I'm
can't
like,
see Dio. I've met him.
Yes.
You can't see him over these guys.
so I'm like, that's the coolest way to make an entrance.
Yeah,
if I ever have
seriously.
millions of dollars, I'm going to do that at least
I want to be
once.
the guy holding the snarling German Shepherds. Can I be that guy?
Yes.
Awesome.
For
Score.
your first theater.
Could
show.
you? How great would that
Dude,
be?
that'd be awesome.
When you play Radio City Music Hall, that's how we're rolling. I'll get a couple of my weightlifting homies, and we'll make that triangle around you.
That would be awesome.
But I'm holding
be
2
great.
German Shepherds, so
And German Shepherds are so old school. Joel's right inside.
I guess we're not on the level of Joel. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got people
So-
calling for him.
Let's get into like how you started in comedy and stuff. Like
Sure.
just how long. I mean, did you start in Philly or?
I started
When you were
in
6,
the
that's when you
late
started.
90s. Yeah, I was always
well, yeah,
trying
as a
to.
kid or whatever.
And then comedy was completely dead when I tried to do it.
Okay.
It was the late 90s, and there was nothing going on. So, like, I had done some, like, open mics in Baltimore. They let me MC a weekend of shows at this place called Winchester's.
Nice. To start.
Yeah, I'd done,
Really?
like, 2 open mics, and the guy was like, oh, you're
good.
great. Yeah. And then that stopped. I moved out of Baltimore. I was in Philly trying to find. I was like, if you were to ask me after 2 times on stage, I'm like, I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
But then I did like a couple bar gigs in Delaware, and it's weird how life works out. I remember distinctly, I did like 2 or 3 shows, opening up the shows. And I know for a fact 2 of the headliners, one time it was Jim Florentine, and another time it was Jim Norton.
Oh, nice.
And these are like do-nothing, stinky one-nighters in Delaware on a Wednesday night. But you're going back like 18 years. So before those guys were anything,
Right,
you know?
right.
Then I did a couple open mics in Philly, like 3, because there weren't any. There was a place called the Laugh House. And I remember meeting Kevin Hart there.
Oh, wow.
And I remember doing some open mics up in New York that were kind of like the beginning of bringer shows
Yeah.
at this place called the Boston Comedy Club. I did that once. And I did the Cellar once. They did a pre-show.
Nice.
It was a bringer show. They didn't have a term for it then. This was like 1999. So then I got so frustrated with my life. And this is how crazy I was. For sure, including like elementary school plays. I was on stage less than 20 times.
Nice.
When I packed up my car and just moved to LA and told
Oh,
everybody.
really?
Yeah, when I just told everybody I was going to do comedy. And
Was that before the contest? That
no, that was including that.
That was including
that was
that,
in
okay.
the spring of 2000. I won this contest that Pauly Shore hosted. His road manager was his buddy Dean, that eventually became the general manager of the Comedy Store. I remember helping Pauly pack up his T-shirts and carry them to his limo that he had at the time. And his manager was like, dude, you're really funny and you're cool. Here's my number. Call me when you get to L.A.
Oh, wow.
Because I was so drunk and telling lies. I'm like, yeah, I'm moving to L.A. I know karate. I'm
Yeah.
a surfer.
Karate.
Yeah, please. I was so
Is there a
insecure.
beach in Philly?
No,
Okay.
I just wanted to be cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
You know,
We
it
all
took
go-
me
we
a-
want
all
to be
go
cool.
through it.
Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
Yeah.
We all
don't
go
feel bad
through that
about that.
crap.
Who doesn't want to be cool?
Right, that's how we sell everything to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like when you think about a car, it's just transportation. When you think about a shirt, it's just going to keep you warm.
Yeah.
But we don't sell that. We sell cool.
My
Right.
tattoo. Hello.
Cool. And it's all just impress chicks,
Right.
everything.
Right.
So I moved out in like September of 2000 to LA. Probably it was still the most difficult thing for the first 5 years of living in Los Angeles was keeping my sanity and getting on stage. Like I've been doing this, I count when I got to LA as the beginning of my career.
Okay.
So it's 15 years now, but it still probably took 8 years
Really?
out of that 15 to get consistent stage time in Los Angeles.
Because there's not much going on. Or there's
No,
a
because
lot-
comedy
there's a lot
was
of
even
shows,
dead
but-
then
Oh,
in
okay.
LA. But like, I was only getting 3 minutes of stage time at the Comedy Store because I was working there at night, so I couldn't get on stage anywhere else. Now all the kids that work at the store, there's 3 rooms. Comedy's back.
Yeah.
So they could be working their door shift and get on stage twice that night with like bringer shows
Really?
or belly room shows. That stuff just wasn't happening when
Yeah.
I was there. And then I didn't have a car for 5 or 6 years. So even on my nights off from the Comedy Store, I couldn't get out to these little alt rooms.
Right.
And I think it was around 2007 I started to get spots at the Improv. I think that's back when Eric Abrams was the booker. He was good to me. I was getting spots at the Improv before the Comedy Store. And I didn't get passed at the Comedy Store until 2008. And then even then, I mean, that was 2008. Now we're 7 years later, and I still don't get, like, quality spots there.
Right.
Like, I still don't go up more than, like, if it's an hour and a half into the show and I get up, it's a blessing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was there, you were up around 11 or 12, I think.
Yeah, and the show probably started at 9.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different style of comedy. But I'll
Right.
tell you what, it makes you a monster. It makes you so good. Like, I see the guys that have hit off a tee for years. I don't think they've grown that much, to be
Really?
honest. Yeah, I think you need those. Bill Burr talked about that. He's one of the guys I admire so much because he's so good. It's undeniable.
Yeah, he's amazing.
It's undeniable. And I remember him saying, like, all these other guys got cushioned spots and they would get the
Right.
easy things. And he had to earn everything. He's a
Yeah.
25-year vet. So
Do you feel you
There's
paid
no
your dues more
shortcuts.
than some of the other people that are out there right now that are big?
oh, yeah, of course.
You have? Okay.
Yeah. Some people just get lucky. There are people that are like, you know, they got cast on a sitcom or they got cast in, like, you know what I mean? Like,
How did
but
they get lucky? Is it based, hey, he looks good on TV?
I have no idea. I
Okay.
think it's like I don't think it's just life.
Yeah.
Like I think about how lucky I am to be born in this country.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some people are born tall. Some people are born in Indonesia. It's just there's a serendipity to all of it that can't be. There are some people that walk out on stage and within 2 years they have like unbelievable representation. They're with like the biggest agencies and the biggest managers, and they get multiple shots at the ring. Other guys sometimes like they get one chance and it doesn't work, and then that's it and it's over. So I just trust in God and God's plan, and I don't worry about any of it. I just show up every day and try my best.
Well, and you kill it. I mean, it shows, like, you know, your comedy is amazing, for one.
Thanks,
and
man.
you're doing something that not everyone does. I would say 95% of comics don't do, 98% of comics. Like, talking about just being a positive comic, for one, but
Yeah.
talking about stories from when you were growing up.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there right now that I don't know
Yeah.
comedy like you. Nobody's telling stories of their childhood but giving a positive message. It's usually
Right.
it's hating on
Yeah,
people or
everybody's so-
making
and-
fun of somebody. Yours is like you're telling a positive story but you're also making fun of your own family. That's not happening with other comics that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, I know.
I think it's what I'm doing now, at least. I don't know. But it's cool. Like, my buddy that had never seen me do comedy from high school, I haven't seen this dude in 20 years. And he was like, dude, you're so real up there. He was like, it's just, because you're not doing an act.
That's why you have fans.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. We can see the genuineness in you and what you do. It's not you don't have a writer that works for you to write these things for you. Like you can.
No.
It's your. It's
yeah,
you.
it's my opinion on
And so
things,
that's why you
it.
have fans. That's why we're
Well, I
friends.
think that's also why, everyone feels like they're your friend. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, you stood outside with my family for 2 hours
Dude,
last
that was
night.
the best.
Yeah, and it was so much fun.
That was fun.
Everyone left, and they're like, dude, that guy is the coolest guy. My mom was in the garage, like, when she was giving me the business. She's like, I'm looking for those Garbage Pail Kids cards to give to Steve.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So she's like, when I find them, I'll give them to you so you can send them to him or whatever. But, like,
That's so
everybody,
cool.
my little sisters.
That's
and I kept
awesome.
telling you, too, like, the group just at my table was 19 years old to 55 years old. And, like, to me, it's so amazing that you have that much of a generation gap there, and you're making everybody laugh, you know? Like,
Dude, yeah, that's my favorite thing about what I'm doing.
it's awesome.
And you haven't peaked yet. It's going to get bigger and better from here.
I hope.
It will.
Because you know what's cool? I like the fact that families are listening to it together.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get emails from dads or moms, and they're like I remember a mom reaching out to me, and she was like, thank you so much. Like, this lady didn't know who I was. She tracked me down because her 13-year-old somehow, I don't know how, bought my album.
Nice.
And she was like, we bonded over that. And she was like, as a single mom, you have no idea what it means to be able to connect
Super
with my son
important.
again.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And then I had a mom once tell me that she would play my CD for her little guy that was having nightmares.
Nice.
I'm like, that's
Wow,
the
dude.
coolest.
Yeah.
And now dads like listen to my podcast with their sons in the car, and it's like their little secret. And I'm like, cool, this is what I want.
That's
I just want
awesome.
people getting together.
Yeah. Well, it's like I want to get my my older brother has 3 kids. I got like a 6-year-old niece, a 4-year-old niece, and a 3-year-old nephew.
Wow.
And I want to get them listening to your stuff too. Like, and that was
That's
the other
why,
thing.
dude, when I come out with a special, when I actually film something, it's going to be
It'll be a
completely
lot
clean.
easier too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Now, when you say
Like
completely
Gaffigan
clean,
style.
though, like, oh, so nothing.
Nothing.
Like, see,
Because like on the CD,
Yeah.
there's like 3 or 4 curse words out of
Yeah.
an hour,
which isn't bad.
which isn't bad,
Right.
but it's enough where a 6-year-old gave me the business on Facebook. It was like, Steve Simeone, you're so funny, but you said a bad word. But the problem is right now, I'm at such a disadvantage in these clubs because
Yeah.
you guys know who I am, but the other 95% of the people in the room in this market where
Right.
I haven't been to before, these people
Have no-
don't know me.
Yeah.
They're expecting comedy. I'm following 3 comedians that have worked with profanity.
Yeah.
I only have 2 tools as a comic. It's just me and a microphone, right? So the only thing I have is my words, and I can either get their attention and get them to laugh by using profanity, or I could talk faster with more energy.
Right.
And then what happens is I'll use the energy and the pace, but that's kind of like nitrous in a car. It's only good for a little bit, and then you have to slow down again, or else they can't keep up with you. So I'll drop some curse words every once in a while, but as soon as I get to the point where it's 50% people in the audience that know me,
Yeah.
I won't have to curse.
No more. Yeah. Well, and see, I really don't think you even have to.
I don't.
Yeah, because
Even this weekend, there was a couple shows I did completely clean.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple where, like, when I did the gang member bit at the end that I'm working out for Ari's show, I say shit.
Yeah.
Because from the expression, that's the expression. You don't start no shit, won't be no shit.
I don't think
can't
it's
change
I don't
that.
think it's a swear. It's it's
Yeah,
a
I
noun.
think-
It's I mean,
well,
come on.
even as a kid, like I heard my dad drop the F-bomb and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Like, that's so when you say you're going to work completely clean, the only time I think it's okay for you maybe not to is when you're talking in your dad's voice. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
coming upstairs and yelling at
Hey.
you guys. Yeah, because
Well, it's funny. Yesterday, I heard an old lady get pissed, and she went, "Oh, piddle," like that. And I went, "Okay, that's."
When was the last time you heard that? Yeah.
I really think non-curse words are funnier.
they are. Yeah.
They're funnier. Like when I do the gang member bit, when I go, "These 4 killers," like that, people laugh.
Yeah.
There's certain words that just paint an image and they're funnier. And
Right.
I don't know.
We're old enough. You remember? We're old enough to remember this. Remember back in the day when they thought Alice Cooper was like the worst thing.
Yeah.
So, but how many times have Alice Cooper ever swear on stage?
Never.
Any of his songs? Not once. None of his
Never.
songs ever have a parental advisory. Nothing. And he said that was done on purpose. He said swearing was too easy.
Yeah.
But he was labeled as he was like early 70s.
Yeah,
late
so he
60s.
could sell.
Yeah, he was labeled as like the most vulgar, most obscene, but he never, ever, ever swore on stage, on an album. Nothing.
Well, that's why, like, I'm going to brand myself complete. Like,
Right.
look, if I'm going up at the Comedy Store at midnight, you're going to hear an F-bomb here
Oh,
or there
yeah,
because,
for
like,
sure.
people have talked about the
Oh fuck!
worst
I'm not gonna go now. I'm offended. Oh,
things.
sorry.
But, like, I wish that the CD didn't have any profanity on it. I should have beeped it out. It's only 2 or 3 words.
Yeah, it's not a
But
lot.
now, lesson learned. When I do this, when I do the first thing I film, it's going to be completely clean.
Yeah.
And then that way, worst case scenario, I'm going to give it away on YouTube, and anybody can check it out.
Well, I don't think you'll have to. Like, I think your comedy sells itself. Like, as soon as people hear it, they love it. You know?
Yeah, it's cool.
And you're talking about something that, like, everyone can relate with, too. Growing up, playing, doing all that stuff. I mean, I'm a little younger than you guys are, but,
Yep.
like, I still remember, like, video games were big when I was growing up. But I still wanted to go outside and play and, you know,
Yeah.
do all that stuff.
Stuff doesn't
so-
change.
Yeah.
Doesn't change. What's
Get
up, buddy?
Get over here, man. Yeah, you're good. You're not going to bother anybody.
Hi. Hi.
Pull up a seat. Dude, are we at 7 o'clock tonight?
6:53 right now.
With those people they don't want. It's all couples, and they're like, what the fuck is this guy?
This creepy guy.
There's this weirdo sitting here watching commercials. It's all commercials, dude. I'm staring at him like I'm interested in them. And they know I'm not, so they know I'm up to something. I am. Like, I'm up to something.
Just like, don't notice. Just let me be.
That's great. Well, how long have you been doing comedy? Because you're local.
Yeah. Oh, okay. First weekend, right? This weekend, yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
It's your first weekend doing it. You're great on stage.
For
like,
those that don't know, Jonathan Gregory just joined us. The ultimate warrior of comedy, Jonathan Gregory, is with us. For those that don't know who just joined us here,
Yeah.
I'm going to hand the mic to Steve because I know you don't want to hear me. I want you to hear these
you're-
guys. So I'll be back, but I'm going to hand it to Steve.
Where are you going? All right, this is the coolest thing about podcasts. This is just us hanging out.
That's what I love, dude. I clean pools for a living.
Oh, killer gig. There was this guy, Kenny Tenney, at the Comedy Store. He killed it.
Oh, it's great. Like
It's such a sweet gig.
it's so nice because like I don't have to talk to anybody all day, which is like awesome for me. But like I listen to podcasts all day long, so like
That's
12 hours a
awesome.
day of podcasts and stuff.
That's
so,
awesome. What are your favorites?
Joe Rogan.
Yep.
Ari Shaffir's.
Yep.
Yours.
Oh, thanks.
Church of What's Happening Now.
They're my favorites, yeah.
The Burtcast.
Bert Kreischer's one of the coolest dudes of all time.
He's a freaking
cool
killer,
shit,
dude. Yeah, like
He's just
you
so
opened that
nice.
show when he was here in town. Okay,
Yeah, stand up live.
amazing. Like, but
He's cool as shit.
Yeah, he's so
My
cool,
God.
right?
Yeah.
Not as cool as you though.
He is super cool.
So-
All those guys. Dude, honestly, the best comedians are the coolest because I think there's no shortcuts. Like, Ryan was talking about, like, do people get lucky? This and yeah, but they're not great.
Right.
You can't get lucky and get great. The great comics had to earn it.
Yeah.
It's like a black belt, man. You could get an Elvis black belt for showing up,
Absolutely.
or a real black belt.
Right.
It's you earn it.
Yeah.
You know. So I'm in no rush. I want to be great. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that's
And the
thing.
process makes you humble and it makes you nice. Because all the
Right.
best comedians I've ever met, super cool people.
Just laid back, just enjoying it. Yeah. Well, how could you not? Like, I don't understand guys that get, that are all jerks or whatever, and they're doing comedy. It's like, dude, you're on stage with like the funniest people, and you're spreading joy. Like, what is?
Yeah, what
do you have to be upset
you know
about?
what
I was saying last night, don't you think there's plenty of room for everyone?
Everybody. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I think
don't
some
know.
people are
I
just
mean-
sad.
If there's, I mean, if you got your own act, I mean, no one else is doing it, so there's plenty of room for you. There's
Well, no one else has gone through the stuff that you've gone through. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah, you
similar
just do
stories.
you, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Whatever you think's funny, whatever. And what I love about it, like your act's so different than mine, and it makes me laugh
Yeah.
so hard. I love that about stand-up. That there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'd say you're one of the top guys in Arizona for sure. Like, and I know you said you were traveling around and doing stuff like that too now, but you really are one of the best guys
Did they
in
start the
Arizona.
show?
Thanks,
So-
man. I mean, that's all opinion, you know. I'm sure some
Well,
people think
absolutely.
I
I
suck.
mean, but I don't know. My opinion matters more than anybody's. I think.
It's mine.
It's my opinion.
I mean, I like.
There are many opinions like it, but this one is mine.
That's right.
I like watching storytellers like you, Steve. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I think you enjoy what you don't do. You know,
Right.
That's
You
an
can't
interesting
do.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't. I couldn't even imagine doing the stuff that Steve does. It's just fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I like stories. You know, watching them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't write a
Okay.
joke, so maybe that's why I like you so much.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
true.
You've evolved past that point. We got.
No,
It's hard. That's a different vein completely for
Completely
comedy, is
different
writing,
muscle.
Writing jokes like
they're just really short stories.
yeah,
and I'm not disciplined. I just-
right.
But I wonder too sometimes because I mean, I haven't been doing as long as you. Is that something I'm going to come out of? Is this where I'm at? I can't imagine myself doing anything other than what I'm doing.
Okay, this is what I'll say because I just saw a great interview today that I recommend. So these are not my thoughts; they're from somebody way smarter than me. I saw, and I can send it to you guys. It was a George Carlin interview,
Oh, nice.
and he talked about the difference between an entertainer and an artist. And essentially, he was like, an entertainer, their job is to like, essentially, if we'll put that into the context of comedian, part of it is being a performing artist. Like he was like, the writing part of him makes him an artist because that's more of an art form. But he's like, the performing part makes him an entertainer. And he was like, you have a job, you have to make them laugh. That's just being an entertainer. But he's like, I'm also an artist, so I get sick of things. There's an uneasy, he goes, I can't keep on doing the same stuff or else I'll go crazy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he evolved. Like if you look at Carlin, he started off as squeaky clean as it got, you know, and then he talked about his career evolving from just stand up and trying to be an actor and always trying to be an actor, but didn't realize he was also a writer, and that was his books that sold him millions of copies and whatever. It's like, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. You don't know where you
Yeah.
know?
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing's promised for sure. And where you go,
Well, as long as you're always writing or looking to write and everything like
Yeah.
that. Like, unfortunately, that's one of the things, because I've been going to open mics out here, not on stage, but just going and watching, because I'm terrified to get on stage.
Just get up.
But, well, I've done it twice, but it was over a year ago, and it still scares me. But, like, I've been seeing a lot of the comics out here, and they do the same jokes over and over again, but not adding anything new, not doing anything. I'm like, are you writing, or are you just because they're just calling it in. You know what I mean? They found something that works, and
Yeah.
then they're just not doing anything more. And like, I don't want to call anybody out, but it's like, dude, work harder. We can go on stage 7 nights a week out here.
That's amazing.
It's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
and some days.
Well, don't you think
like
for some people it's like
just a hobby?
yeah, but also a community like of their friends, and
Yeah.
really, it's more of that than they really
Yeah,
they
they-
really like being like stand up itself.
Or maybe they're
Probably.
just
I
trying to
mean,
get comfortable up there.
Yeah.
Maybe that too. Yeah.
You know, like I remember the way I evolved was I knew I was only getting 3 minutes on stage,
Uh-huh.
and I would have so many ideas. I'm like, 3 minutes, I can't even do so I said, forget it. I would just go up on stage and start talking.
Right.
I was like, I'm just going to talk about what's going on in the room or what I did that day or something that's not a polished piece of stand-up.
Right.
But it kind of held me back in the short term because I had friends. Now, granted, this is 15 years ago, where everybody was working on their 7-minute showcase set.
Oh yeah.
And they would just get that thing perfect, like a well-oiled Tonight
Right.
Show set. And I'm like, and they were able to get on TV,
Yeah.
but I was trying to learn how to say things funny. So like last night, Late Show, I was disappointed in my first show. It went fine, but for me personally, I was disappointed. So I'm like, I like going up there without an agenda.
Yeah.
Just start to talk, see what happens. And I knew specifically there were 2 bits I wanted to do. Didn't even get to them.
Oh yeah.
yeah, your
So-
intro's been totally different every show this week. You know,
I'm trying
You know,
because
switch
once somebody was like, "Oh, this guy's doing the same jokes," and it hurt me so much. I'm
Really?
like, I'm the exact opposite of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So like, I know I have a CD out there. I know I have YouTube videos out there. I'm like, I want to do, like, I'm working out something specifically from my CD for Comedy Central. That's going to be part of it. But then every once in a while, like, you were like, "Hey, dude, do the Hulk Hogan." I haven't done that in a year, and that was probably.
Has to be happening tonight. That has. Can I just
I forgot how that went when I put it on my CD because it's that old of a bit, you know.
Such a great bit though too. Like that bit is hilarious.
when I saw that, and I won't give away the punch, but when I saw that was like the first thing that I remember of you. The first time seeing you, and then Roddy comes out, and his first words
Yes.
were, "So you had boners, did you?" And dude, I'm on the floor at the Tempe Improv tour. People are like, "Is this dude having a seizure?" Like, I'm done for just at that.
Fast, right? Do you know how that came? Okay, I remember once we were hanging out at the Comedy Store, and it was like me. I think it was Mike Black, Kevin Christie. I don't know who else, but we were talking about the old G.I. Joe cartoon, and how the first time that debuted, it was a 5-part miniseries. And I was like, dude, that was so cool.
The mass device.
Yes.
Yeah.
I go, that was so cool. I remember being a little kid and I was watching and I got a boner. That's how cool it was. And everybody died. I'm like, is this how my wiener works? So then I thought it was really funny to equate a boner to something that had
I
anything to
remember
do with
those
sex.
boners. You know what I mean? Yeah, the non-sexual like
Yeah.
kid boners are just it's
Is
excitement.
pizza, is the pizza good? Beep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then I'm like, okay, tie that in the Hulk Hogan and it's hysterical.
You know the story that you tell too. That's I believe, and I think I have a photographic memory of wrestling lore from the 80s. I believe the story that you tell is actually from the first Saturday Night's Main Event ever. Somebody can check on YouTube, but I think that's the very first
You know what
Saturday
I
Night's
think
Main
that
Event.
story is? Actually, I think it's a mixture of 3 or 4 things that I saw happen. Because there's certain, like when I'm doing the Ari's story podcast, somebody was like, you should make it this. And I went, no, it's not a stand-up. It's storytelling. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping it as, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit.
Don't
to
let
make
somebody
it
tinker
funnier.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah. But with stand-up, like I'll take like 2 or 3 instances and I'll go, what if all the funny stuff happened in that one night? And it went boom, 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 boom like that. Like I remember specifically getting cable in the house, and they used to show wrestling live from the Philadelphia Spectrum. And I remember we'd fall asleep in front of the TV, and my dad would carry us upstairs. That's part of the joke that I just forgot. And I remember being asleep, and my dad screaming, running up the steps, "You're missing it! You're missing it! Andre the Giant! Andre the Giant! The 8th wonder of the world! He wasn't even on the card!" And I'm like, what? He goes, "Big John Studd's in trouble! Here he comes! Get downstairs, buddies!" And then my dad couldn't take it because he couldn't watch it by himself. So he woke us all up, and I was like, what's happening? So that I tied into the Hulk Hogan story. Dude, we better get in there.
Yeah, we
7
better go.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Dude, this was awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you guys. It was great.
Thanks for letting me chime in.
Yeah, it was
I didn't want to come out earlier.
Oh, you
Glad I
weren't gonna
came out
bother
for that
anybody.
second. I was getting really.
Yeah, absolutely. Get
I had that last I was just getting to that last uncomfortable point where I was like,
Steve, you have one?
Do I hit the stop or do I hit the record again?
I think it's stopped.
All right, guys, that was the episode with Steve Simeone. The first of many episodes of Periodically Funny. So if you enjoyed that, please come back and listen again. I'm going to start going on stage more often. It'll all be local in Arizona, but if you're out, I'll let you guys know where I'll be. Pretty soon I'll be starting up my own YouTube channel and fun stuff like that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to these guys. I wanted to share their information with you guys so you had it and you could follow them on Twitter and Facebook. So Ryan Witting, follow him on Facebook. He's an awesome guy. It was fun to meet him and hang out. Jonathan Gregory, dude, this guy is probably Arizona's best comic right now. I mean, he's killing it. So follow Jonathan at Creepy Comedy on Twitter, and his website is creepycomedy.com. So check him out because he's gonna be huge soon. And then Steve Simeone, follow him at Steve Simeone on Twitter. Check out his podcast, Good Times with Steve Simeone. That's him and the Flying Julie Sayat. And then his website is awesomesteve.com. You can get the awesome Garbage Pail Kids shirt that he has and some other cool products. Find out where he's going to be. And if you haven't seen Steve, go check him out because he is a killer. So, thanks again for listening. And, a shout out too to Damon Crutcher, my roommate. Follow him. You can find him on Facebook, I believe, at Damon Crutcher. But if you type in Primitive Combat Systems on Google, his stuff will come up, and that is his gun training company and everything else. Next week, we have an episode coming out with me and Damon and our roommate, Bobby, all about guns. We talk about gun safety, gun violence, just different things with guns. It's a 3-hour conversation. It's an amazing conversation, and I hope you guys will listen to it because it was a killer, and I'm super stoked about that conversation. And also, from that conversation, Damon decided that he wanted to start his own podcast called Primitive Combat Systems as well, and we're actually posting that conversation on both of ours to kind of cross-promote for each other, and I will also be a part of Primitive Combat Systems podcast. I'll be helping out producing it, stuff like that, but also I'll be a part of a few of those episodes just to give a different point of view. So you can find me on Twitter. It's at CUAndyCU. That's the periodic symbol for copper. So find me there. I'll have a website up pretty soon. And you can find me on Facebook. Just search Andy Copper, and I'll pop up there as well. If you guys enjoyed the episode, please go on to iTunes, rate and review, and subscribe to the channel. It'd be super helpful. And I look forward to hearing your feedback, whether you liked it, didn't like it, whatever it is. I don't care. I want to know. So thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.